Hello, this is the third in the series Selecting in Photoshop, and this one will cover the Magic Wand tool. There are two tools in the Magic Wand collection, and the first one is the Quick Selection tool. This works automatically. There are no settings. We just drag the cursor over part of the image that we want to select and it makes a calculation. It will select all tones within that range. Now in selecting the sky, it hasn't selected enough yet, so I'll make a bigger selection by just dragging the cursor over the sky itself, and there instantly it selects the sky. It works well on this subject because there's a clear definition between the subject, the building, and the sky around it. It doesn't always work that well, so we'll try it on another image. This photograph of the cat is against a fairly plain background, so in theory the Quick Selection tool should work well, so let's try it. I'll brush it around over the background and it's selected the background quite well. There's some bits down here that haven't been included, so as with other selection tools, if I hold down the Shift key and click on that area, that becomes included, and also here. Or if you want to take a selected area out of the selection, hold down the Alt key and the cursor changes to a minus sign, click again and it should disappear. Now the trouble here is the fur. If I enlarge this image more and a bit more, we'll see it hasn't made a good job of selecting the fur, and that's because the Quick Selection tool is really quite crude, and it works alright on straight lines and hard edges, but not on anything soft and fluffy like this. So it would not be a good tool to use on this sort of picture. We need to use something else. The Quick Selection tool can be good, but here is one of its limitations. Now this image has lots of hard edges and straight lines, so maybe it'll work better. I'll brush around the background area to make the selection. And here you can see that quite a lot of the subject has been included where it shouldn't be. Around here, the bottom left, and down here the left of the camera, and a bit more on the right. And that's because the difference in tones between the background and the subject isn't all that great, and the Quick Selection tool just can't make a decent job of it. I'm going to cancel this with Control D or Command D, and I'm going to choose the Magic Wand, and we'll see if that does a better job. Now the Magic Wand does give us some options. We can select the sample size. There's quite a range from 0 up to 101 average. I'm just going to go for 5 by 5 pixels. We can select the tolerance. The tolerance is how much is included in the range. So a low tolerance won't include many tones. A very high tolerance will include lots of tones. So we'll start off with just 5. See how that goes. If I click, again you can hold down the Shift key to include more, but this isn't going too well, so I'm going to cancel that. I'm going to push up the tolerance to 10. It's really trial and error and a bit of practice that tells you which tolerance is going to be most successful. Oh, that's better. Now I can include this area by holding down the Shift key and clicking there. Try again down here and here. You want to keep the tolerance as low as possible, and then there's less danger of eating into the subject. It's a bit iffy up in this corner. No, it seems to be working. Now this has done quite a good job. Because we kept the tolerance low, it has selected a bit too much in this corner, but we can fix that. If I enlarge the image, you can see it's collected a few unnecessary bits here. But to repair this situation, I'm going to go to the lasso tool by pressing L on the keyboard and hold down the Alt key and encircle that bit that I don't want included in the selection. There, let's clean up that corner, and a bit more here. Straighten that edge, and the bit here, it's overstepped the mark. Circle that. Good. Now these little dots we need to include. So if I hold down the Shift key with the lasso tool, I can include those, go round here and include those in our selection. And you can go round the rest of the image just to make sure you haven't got any stray elements. And a few here. There, now that magic wand has made a pretty good job of selecting our background. Now that had a tolerance of 10. Just to show you the difference, I'm going to deselect that. If I'd push the tolerance up to say 20 and try to select, see what happens. And now a lot of the subject has been included in the selection, which isn't good. So that tolerance is obviously too high. Tolerance of 10 we had earlier was just right. We'll look at a couple more features involved with the magic wand tool. One is this box up here marked contiguous. With that checked, the selection will only include subject matter which is next to what we're selecting. Clicking on this area, for example, it won't include inside this handle. We can include it by holding down the Shift key and clicking again, but if we uncheck that box, then the selection will include anything else of similar tones. Sometimes that works, normally it doesn't. So if I click now to select, there, well, straight away it started to select area on this clock face, which isn't the idea. So that's not successful in this case. I'm going to cancel that, Control D, Command D, and leave that box checked. Normally you will want to keep that box checked. So with a tolerance of 10, let's select this background. I need to add more to it, holding down the Shift key, click in here, I think that tolerance is too low. It's not including the edges right next to the subject in several places, so I'm going to cancel that and push the tolerance up to 15. And that's given me a slightly tighter selection, which is better. I'm including all these areas as well, and I can include inside the handle with an extra click. Let's try just this little gap as well. Oops, no, that's gone too far. So I'll undo that with Control Z, Command Z. That's as far as I want to take the selection now. But we need to include this bit here underneath the clock. So I'm going to go into quick mask mode, which we've used in an earlier tutorial. Press Q. There. The mask is a bit strong. Let's drop it down to 30%. Now I can see the subject as well more successfully. Now with the brush tool, it'll need a white brush to include in the mask, fairly hard edge, some of the mask, so the selection will be included. A smaller brush to get in that corner, then we can brush away, and a little bit in here with a very small brush. Press X to reverse it, hold down the Shift key to get a straight line, a little bit in there, see the whole image. Now if I press Q again, there we've got our selection. Now we can give that a slight feather, select, modify, feather, we'll just give it 1 there. I want to reverse the selection, select, inverse, so now it's just the clock that's been selected, and that can be put onto new layer with Control J, Command J. And there you can see in the layers panel we've got our clock selected on a clear layer. And that's about it with the Magic Wand tool. Very useful and can be extremely quick and efficient at times. There's one more small feature which should be used every time you make a selection, and that is Matin. No matter how good the cutout's been, there will be little bits of the background left behind. This is because the pixels are square, so any diagonal line or curved line can't clean out everything. Some bits will be left behind. I've put the clock on a blue background just to demonstrate this, so if I enlarge it, and if we look round the edge of the clock, we'll see all these jagged lines, which is some of the background left behind from the selection. We need to get rid of that, otherwise we won't get a good blend into the new background. So we go to Layer, drop down to Matin and Defringe. Usually number 1 is alright, sometimes 2 pixels. You never really have to go above 2 pixels. So if I click OK, you see what it's done is pick up some of the background color and merged it into our subject, so we get a good blend from one to the other. Every time you do a selection, it's worth looking at that to see if it helps, and usually it will. That's about it then. The next video will cover red eye removal. That won't be very long, and after that it'll be the pen tool, perhaps one of the most useful tools in Photoshop.